Hey, it's Eli aka Atlas, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a little walkthrough of my most recent release, or one that I'm able to share at least, 96 Souls. This is page 5 from the 30-something plus page book that is going to be released sometime in July or thereafter, and as soon as it'll be released I'll have all the links in the description. But without further ado, you can see that I started the camera pretty much halfway into some of the pages. There's about 2, 4, 6 panels on this page, and we're pretty much already done with the first two. I get started right away into jumping into panel 3, and I colored this a little bit differently than I would color some of my other works, in particular because these scenes were pretty much based off of real people and real pages. The client was super nice, and it was a very new experience for me having to actually work from layouts given to me by the client, and I pretty much just followed what they did with the layouts and the arrangement, and I tried to match the colors sort of to what they did. It still has to look like a comic, so I tried my best to blend the comic with the real pictures, and so I had to color it a very smooth kind of way, as opposed to the more stylized way I would usually do it. So the guy in this particular panel, without giving too much of the story away, is, well, I guess I'll talk about the page itself. This is a bit of a science-y themed story, so there's going to be a lot of labs and a lot of science and pharmaceutical companies and things like that. So we have the hero, who is in panel 3, and we have some of the villains, so to speak, who are in some of the other panels surrounding this. And in this particular panel, panel 5, we see one of the main villains himself. And this was one where I asked the client if it was okay to stylize it a little bit more, because I wanted to kind of foreshadow that he is a villain. Even though we kind of get that impression right away, just because he kind of has, you know, I guess kind of like a, you know, a very corporate, very cold look about him. And we can kind of get that comparing him right next to the hero himself. But I also wanted to showcase it in the colors without being a little too dramatic. And one way I decided to do that was to actually desaturate some of the colors in that panel, panel 5, and to actually desaturate that compared to some of the other panels around it. It ends up giving it a little more of a drier, colder look, which I think definitely helps foreshadow some of the character traits of this guy. So most of these panels were drawn well, most of the panels were drawn and most of the pages were drawn on regular Bristol board paper 11 by 17, and I've been getting into the habit lately of combining digital with traditional lines. So for example, I'll do the likenesses and stuff on the computer. I'll draw kind of like a placeholder face or get it really close to the way I want it on paper, and I can like really refine the likenesses and get it a little more accurate on the computer, which ends up saving me a bit of time in a sense. On a panel like this, where it's a little smaller and the likenesses are important but not going to be the main focus, on panel 4 as opposed to panel 3, where the guy's likeness is super important, you know, I did those ones on panel 4 on paper, and the ones on panel 3 I did digitally. I even colored pretty much the backgrounds a little bit differently than I usually would, because again I had to match it to the photo. I didn't want them to look like they were in a different place than what was actually in the movie, because this comic is actually an adaptation of a movie, which is again is another first for me. So I had to actually kind of figure out ways to unify the color scheme that they were using with my palette, and to kind of make it all work together. And of course, you know, they did really good, because, you know, obviously the guys who are in charge of making that film are, you know, they had their own set designers and things like that, and people who coordinated, so it wasn't too much of a challenge. But some of the temperatures and stuff which is where I ended up asking permission from the client to kind of play with some of the values and the settings and some of the moods, because I did want it to give it that really authentic comic book feel, which I think is why they came to me in the first place, but I didn't want to go too overboard, so finding a nice balance was one of the challenges that I really explored with this page. Again, we're working on panel 2, and for those who know me and know my workflow, so to speak, I don't often work in the chronological order of the panels when I'm coloring, as opposed to when I'm drawing. Actually, even when I'm drawing, most of the time I'll draw with the panel that I can get done the quickest, and that kind of helps me move things along. And it's almost like a psychological hack I would recommend, because the more panels you get done, the more you want to finish. So in this case, when I'm doing the colors where I don't have to draw the panels because they're already drawn, it helps me, again, for speed's sake, but also because you can kind of figure out where to play with the values a lot easier and a lot faster as well. So I think that about wraps it up for this video, because that's about as much as I recorded. I'll have some pictures right here at the ending. Make sure you guys check these out, and if the story is out by the time I release this video, I'll have all the necessary links for required reading below in the description box. Make sure you guys comment, like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, and make sure you share the video to all the social media sites you're on. Everywhere you are, I am also. I'll have the links for that down below as well. And make sure you guys leave some comments. Tell me what you thought of this process, some tips and tricks that you guys have. I love getting discussions going on these things. I love the technical stuff, so make sure you guys again leave a comment, and thank you for watching. Shout out to the clients, Stan, and the rest of the guys at the company. I will leave the links again below, and you can check them out and the 96 Souls comic book adaptation. So thank you again, and I will see you later.
Salam. Smit ni Sumia.